In this video, I want to talk to you about compliant surcharging, but more specifically, I want to talk to you about how it looks on a payment processing statement and how to do a proposal for someone that's currently on compliant surcharge, because it's actually one of the most confusing types of statements that you can work with as far as doing a proposal for someone. So, first of all, what is compliant surcharging? Well, it's pretty simple actually. With compliant surcharging, the idea is whenever a customer comes to use their card, if it's a credit card, so when they go to run it through the machine, if it's a credit card, there's going to be a fee added that's usually going to be 3%. That's the cap. So it's usually going to be at 3%. So they're going to have a 3% fee that's added at the register. Okay. When there's a debit card, there is no fee that's added at the register. Okay. And it could be a PIN debit or signature debit. It doesn't matter. If it's a debit card, they don't add a fee. If it's a credit card, they do add a fee. Now, that sounds pretty simple. But what does that look like on a statement? Well, let's talk about kind of industry average pricing. So first of all, to understand this, we got to make sure we understand that there are two very different things happening here, that they happen to be connected, but as far as the statement goes, they're not really connected. And that is, you have a surcharge, the idea of the merchant doing a price increase on credit cards, and they're literally adding revenue onto those transactions, okay? Then totally separate from that, you have fees that are being charged to the merchant, okay, to process those transactions. Now, it just so happens that usually, which I'll get to this in a minute, that 3% they're collecting is designed to offset the credit card processing fees that they would have on the statement, so that they like balance each other out. But, they don't always. And the thing is, the debit cards are not going to be balanced out because they're not charging anything for debit. So let's forget for a second about what surcharging looks like at the point of sale. I want to focus on the statement and how to do a proposal against it to sell somebody that's currently on compliant surcharging, which you're going to see more and more. So the statement, the way it's going to look is they're generally going to be charging them a flat rate, 3%. Sometimes they're still charging 3.99 or even 4% on those transactions. So they're not, they're only charging 3% to the customer, but they're charging 4% to the merchant. Okay, so they're still collecting 1% from the merchant, that sort of thing. But the idea would be it's going to be a flat rate there, but then there's going to be a different rate. This is the key. There's going to be a different flat rate for debit. Okay, and usually that flat rate is going to be around 1%, 1.25 or 1.5. Those are kind of the industry average, right? Plus, there's going to be a per item amount. Usually that number is 25 cents. Okay? So think of it like this. On the statement, it kind of manifests itself like it's two-tier pricing, where it's like 3% for credit and it's 1.25% and 25 cents for debit. That's usually how it ends up looking, okay? So you got to identify that. Now, one of the other really cool things is, the other thing that usually you're going to spot on the statement is somehow that processor is trying to show on the statement that they collected this extra revenue that was paid by the customer. Because with compliant surcharging, you don't really want to show the merchant all the fees that they paid. You want to show, hey, here were your fees. Here's the extra revenue we collected from the customer to offset those fees, and here's what's left. Now, that's done in a variety of different ways. Some companies have gotten pretty good at it, and they actually have a line item that shows something like consumer payments or customer paid or, some kind of credit. And you're like, what is that credit? That's a huge credit. Well, that's not really a credit. They're just showing this is the money that was collected from the customer that offset this. And they actually collected that from the merchant. Or the other more common way is still to do it with a daily discount of some kind. So every day they're collecting 3% of the transactions, but it's a little tricky there because, again, with compliant surcharging, you have debit versus credit, so it gets kind of confusing with that, all right? So once you find this compliant surcharge statement, you got to understand something, okay? It's very tricky to then do a proposal against that, right? Because they're probably showing that, hey, your total fees last month were $400. Well, if you come in and pitch this merchant on traditional tiered pricing or interchange plus, what's going to happen is you're going to say, well, you were paying $400, but with me, you're going to pay $900, right? Because you're charging them for those credit card transactions, and currently they're passing that cost on to the customer. So generally speaking, when you're going to go against surcharging, you need to go against it with either like a dual pricing where you're actually going to save them more money, Or if you really need to take them back to Interchange Plus for some reason, it's important that those credits get removed so you actually show this is what you really paid for your transactions versus what you're going to pay with me, and not including this credit that they got from their revenue. Very tricky topic, and I've said this throughout this series. If you want to remove all the trickiness and just get it done, head over to getisoamp.com. We have a team of experts. We've done thousands of statements that are surcharging, and we know how to compare that to anything. And by the way, you know what's even more difficult than that is taking somebody from something like, say, tiered pricing or flat rate and converting them to compliant surcharging. You can't do that unless you have a system that can guess accurately the debit versus credit percentage, and that's exactly what we do at ISOAMP. We guess those numbers so that you can convert back and forth from any cost structure to any cost structure. So if you want to see what that looks like, head over to getisoamp.com and fill out the form or click the link below this video, and you can check out what we can do for you with a free demo from our team. My name is James Shepard. Have a great day.